Welcome back. Jim Parsons here, your personal writing mentor. This is lesson 13 of Write That Novel Now. Today, we're going to be talking about developing characters, describing characters. Let's get straight into it. Well, this segment is going to be character building for you. Character is so important in your novel. Don't be fooled into thinking it's all about plot, because all the plot is a character, your character in action, having formed a goal and being desperate to achieve that goal. That's all the plot is, your character wanting something. And of course, you want your character to be more than a cardboard cutout figure. You want your character to be as close to real life as possible. Characters have all manner of aspects. They've got a history, a childhood. All these things impinge on who they are right now. They've got likes, dislikes, prejudices. They've got quirks, a particular manner of speaking, a particular style of dress, which often is what they're trying to tell the world about themselves. And of course, their physical appearance. Now, I'm going to leave physical appearance for next week because it's a lot more difficult than most people realise, and so I'm going to devote an entire lesson to it. Right now, I'm going to give you 5 techniques, 5 ways that you can describe, develop, and hence reveal these characters, make them leap off the page. I'll run through them quickly and then we'll go back and I'll give you examples and explore each one. First of all, you can let the narrator tell the reader. Now, you know what I think about telling. You're going to have to do this very briefly if you feel it's necessary, and very skillfully. A better way is to show what one character says or even thinks about another. You can show the character in action. You know the old saw, actions speak louder than words. So seeing what the character does, that's very important. Or you can show some dialogue where the character reveals him or herself. Every time we open our mouth, we reveal something about ourselves, even when we don't want to. And number 5, most important of all, get inside the character's head. Develop a strong POV, strong narrative voice, and show the thoughts, because it's very hard to conceal the truth when you're seeing thoughts. So they are the 5 techniques. Let's now go back through them slowly so we can have our narrator tell the reader about the character. And as I said, you need to keep that to the barest minimum. But it can be done in ways that are reasonable and that can communicate more than just a straight telly statement. Let's try this one. Bart Newman was the meanest man alive. He was mean with his money, buying nothing he could borrow or steal. He was mean with his words, cutting his family and his neighbours down with sarcasm and abuse. And he was mean with his fists, although he did prefer his victims to be drunk and uncoordinated when he picked a fight. So even though we're being told about Bart Newman, there's a lot that's being revealed about him, including the fact that deep down he's a coward. So that's telling. You can also set up one character to speak about or think about another character. Now, it could be subsidiary characters talking about your main character, or it might be the main character giving their opinion of someone else. There are 2 tricks that you can use here, 2 tricks to manipulate your reader, because that's what writing's all about, you know. It's manipulating your reader to either like or dislike a character, and sometimes to even change their viewpoint on the world. So you're manipulating your reader. Now, here's the first trick. Readers are more likely to accept as true the opinions of a character they've been led by you to like and empathise with, and conversely to distrust the opinion of the villain. Now, here's a familiar villain, Captain Hook, out of Peter Pan. Captain Hook smirked. Peter Pan is a stupid little boy, and he will soon fall into my trap. Now, we've been taught to dislike the villainous Captain Hook, so we distrust his judgment. And even if we've never seen Peter Pan in action, We just refuse to accept from this man that Peter Pan is stupid. We rather expect Captain Hook will get his comeuppance. Okay, a second example. Let's say you're reading a fictional account features Queen Victoria, and in this fictional account she scowls and says, "Lord Stanley, you dare to speak unkindly of my manservant Brown. He is loyal and most dear to me. I would trust him with my life." If you've been reading this fictional rendition of Queen Victoria's life and you've come to like her and respect her and trust her judgment, then you will side with her against Lord Stanley and believe that John Brown is a good man. If, however, the impression you've gained of Queen Victoria is that she's a silly old thing and is rather giddy and can't be trusted in her judgment of people, then of course you'll be thinking, "Oh goodness me, Lord Stanley is dead right about this fellow." And I've got a note here, dialogue is always a form of showing. You're not telling. As soon as you get into dialogue, you're really showing. So it's a very safe mode to be in. With one exception, and that is if you use dialogue as an info dump. Great term. I won't go into it now because when we do dialogue, we'll be talking info dump. I said there were two tricks you can play on your reader, two ways to manipulate them. Here's the second one. We can invite the reader to play guessing games. Because characters, including that main character that we empathise with, can have prejudices, can be mistaken, or can lie to themselves and others. So the reader must sift through what characters tell them. Does this irritate the reader? Not at all. This is what we love about reading. We love to try and dig beneath the surface and think, aha, I bet I know what that means really. I bet she's got something planned. These are things we love to do. It's part of the joy of reading. So give some of this stuff to your reader. Give them some fun. Here's some examples. Alan folded his arms. "My dear sister, if you want to know who stole your rings, perhaps you should look a little harder at your prized piano student. She was here on Thursday. Her family is poor, and those rings would be a great temptation." Already I'm sure you really like Alan. Do you notice your mind now is racing? Is Alan right? These are some of the possibilities. Is he just blunt and honest about this, but a little bit prejudiced against the girl from a poor family? Or is Alan lying to protect someone else or himself? Did he steal the ring? And note that because we're looking at dialogue here, we're seeing and hearing Alan in action. It's not telly. And I've given you the telly version. Alan made every effort to pin the blame on a piano student. Here's another example. Same trick, different example. This time it's someone fooling themselves. Marion flung herself down on the bed. How stupid she'd been to believe Edward might be interested in her. Just plain stupid. He was so self-centered. He'd invited her to dinner and all he talked about was his business plans. And what a great business partner she would make. How intelligent, reliable and competent she was. Big deal. She'd spent a fortune on her new top and the hairstyle, but he didn't notice. Why was she so unappealing to men? Huh? Okay, I think you've got Marion's number, and I think you would agree that she's misjudged Edward. He actually thinks she's got a few brains and that might be a useful partner in his business, but she doesn't see that. So we're sitting back thinking, oh no, Marion, stop being so stupid. So characters are allowed to be dumb. They're allowed to not get it, as long as the reader gets it. Now, if I were to produce a telly version, you know what I mean by telly, a telly version of this, Marion completely misjudged Edward and thought the evening had been a romantic disaster. Yeah, well, bland, isn't it? Let's move on. Number 3, we can show what the character does, show the character in action. And as I said earlier, It's that old saw, actions speak louder than words. And so here's a little vignette. Celia made a small pot of soup from the last few vegetables she had left, adding 2 chicken wings for flavour. She looked out the window. Yes, he was still there, huddled in the corner of the bus shelter, shivering. She poured half the soup into a large mug and hurried across the street to him with the steaming broth. Now, okay, Celia in action. From her actions, I think we can presume that Celia is a charitable and caring person. In fact, some of the details about it, the last few vegetables she had left and just chicken wings for flavouring, there's a hint there that she may be denying herself to be able to help someone who is in trouble. So action speak louder than words. Notice it doesn't start off by saying Celia felt sorry for the man or Celia was a good soul. You show what she does, you leave it to your reader to make that judgment. Number 4, we can show what the character says personally. In other words, rather than someone speaking about them, let's listen into what they say. Dialogue is so important, and again, as I said, it's a great way of showing you can't run any risks here. So let's have a look at this little bit. So you think you have me cornered, Wendy said. Well, I'm sorry, Brad. You don't know me very well. That sort of underhanded trick just gets my back up. If you want to fight dirty, I am happy to oblige. You'd better book 'em a hotel room, Brad, because when I show your wife some photos I took recently, you won't be getting back in the house. Strong dialogue. And Wendy, as I say here, the reader is unlikely to think Wendy is a pushover. The reader might think she's vindictive, but these are all the sorts of things that's up to your reader. And the best of all method is point of view, showing a strong POV in narrative voice so that we're seeing or hearing the very thoughts in this character's head. It's the best and truest delineator of character. Because, as I said, while the character might lie to themselves or fool themselves, they don't lie to other people in their head. So let's follow up on that last dialogue with Wendy and Brad. Wendy has just finished delivering this line to Brad. Wendy gave Brad a wry smile. She saw the flash of alarm in his eyes. He'd taken it hook, line and sinker. When someone had a guilty conscience as large as his, you didn't need photos. So, okay, what we're learning about Wendy is that not only has she got a pretty smart mouth, but she's devious. She probably hasn't even got any photos. She's just conning him up. So this is getting inside Wendy's head. Well, there are the 5 ways, and I'm going to now show you an exercise where you can try applying these, and if you want more exercises of the same sort, you can email me for them. Here's a character delineation exercise you might like to try. Now, I appreciate it's not easy when it's just on the screen in front of you. Maybe you could pause the screen and copy it out. As you recall, there were 5 ways you can show something about your character. The first way is to let the narrator tell the reader. Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that bit. And you take what I've written in that part and try techniques 2, 3, 4 and 5. In other words, you have a character talking about him, perhaps 2 people discussing him. You can actually show the character in action. His name is Chris. Show him in action. All this sort of thing happening. Or you can engage Chris in some dialogue with another character that allows this to come out. Doesn't mean he's going to blab and say, I feel uncomfortable. It may be the way he gets around the issue. And finally, get inside the character's head and show what's going on there, the sort of panic, that response to the others and what they're doing. That might be just tagged onto number 3 where you show him in action. So have you got the idea? Taking this particular line, Chris was the sort of guy who found it hard to reveal personal things about himself. And so when friends started opening up, he would get nervous and try all sorts of ways to block or change the conversation. So that's what you've got to work with. As I said, write it so that another character or characters discuss him or show him in action, or show some dialogue from Chris himself that's revealing, or get in and finally get inside his head. So they're the different ways. Practice each of those ways. See which one you think works best for this particular block. As I said, I appreciate it's not easy to do it like this, and I do have some more exercises like this that I can offer you if you email me. Well, that's it for lesson 13. Nice short one this week. I suspect next week is going to be a lot longer when I talk about describing the physical details of your characters. Until then, here's my email address in case you would like to get some of these exercises from me. Until next week, goodbye, keep safe.